Hey, Simplifiers, I'm Evan, and today's conversation is going to challenge you about how to think about growing and scaling in your business. So picture this, you're a solopreneur juggling multiple companies, working all hours of the day, but somehow you're moving in all directions at once without making real progress. Well, that's exactly where my guest, Robby Butler, found himself before he made a decision that changed everything. He went from trying to do it all alone to becoming the integrator at Y Street Capital. And what he discovered is remarkable. Sometimes the most powerful business breakthroughs come from measuring the simplest things. Your secret competitive advantage may be something you're not even tracking. Today, we're diving into Robby's journey with EOS implementation. 10x is easier than 2x. And why he made the bold choice to focus exclusively on one type of client. And we'll explore the current market trends, deal structures that almost broke him, and why he believes partnerships fail more often than properties do. Plus, Robby's going to share his go-to sales resources. If you or someone you know is ready to stop spinning wheels and start building systems that actually work, this conversation is for you. Let's dive in. Well, Robby, man, I appreciate you coming on.
Yes, we have talked for a long time, but never like this and never at this length. So
I know.
Very excited to be here.
Exactly. It's probably a year or so ago. I can't remember how I reached out to you. I just wanted to connect. I was loving what I was seeing on LinkedIn. I've loved it even more, just seeing what you're doing, the waves that you're making. And, yeah, we were just talking about even deadlifting. Like business is very important, but also deadlifting.
Yes. You and I are three and a half hours apart from each other, neighboring markets. There's not much in between us. And yet I know I actually have lifted in a powerlifting competition that's probably evenly between us. So there's population of maybe 25,000, a tiny little town, and they had a powerlifting competition, and I went there. So, if we'd known each other, and if you were competing, we might have met at that city. It would have been good.
No, man, in my journey, it was out of desperation, and I've got to change something about my life. So I actually had friends. This is so funny. I mean, we have dinner once or twice a week, maybe more sometimes. And it was probably December, and I was just like, I need to do more strength training. I'm getting bored with the stuff upstairs. Let's do something. And they're like, well, we did CrossFit at this other gym, and like the gym that we're at right now, that we're all hanging out at, like they've got a great box. The coaches are great. We've gotten to know them. We just haven't done it here. And I was like, okay. They're like, maybe we'll join. And so I just joined. I was just at this disgust level in life. And I was like, I need a coach. What I'm doing is not getting the results. And won't that preach to everything in life and business is finding someone who has the success, who's willing, that you can connect with, and that you can be able to, be led by them. And so I literally signed up after Christmas, in between Christmas and New Year's. And for 3 months, I'm coming back to dinner at our house or their house after CrossFit. And I'm like, man, I'm improving. And they're noticing, and the conversation's moving, but they didn't join. So for those 3 months, I was just going by myself. And then April came, and also my wife was working on a powerlifting thing. And she was like, okay, well, I'll join in too. Let's do it with our friends. And so since April, it's been 3 or 4 days a week, and then maybe more dinners, maybe more than just once or twice a week. Take it out. But it's just so important. I mean, you take that that silly example, why are these guys talking about deadlifting and weight training? Is because doing what you need to do in community matters so much. And you're like, if I'm already going to be doing this, I might as well be doing it with the people that I can connect with, that I can be able to, learn from, and say man, there's tweaks that I need to make. Like you were just saying, Robby, you always want to find those different things. Yeah.
And that's why weightlifting is the best, because you can add half an ounce at a time over a long time period and still make identifiable progress all along the way. And when people realize that's available in business, it's available in all aspects of
Mhm.
life, the little measurements that you're measuring along the way. And then you start to ask, well, could I go faster? Could I make better moves? Could I be a little wiser? Could I find a better coach? Like it's an
Right.
infinite game. So rewarding.
And it's almost like, for me, I was almost like, I don't even have a scorecard.
Sure.
And so I'm just like, I just know I just need to show up. I need to change. I don't even know what the things are. I'm not even understanding the language. But, how does that, and how have you seen that applied to, your work over at Y Street? I mean, you like transitioned from being a solopreneur into Y Street, and yet you knew the scorecard.
Yeah. Yeah. I can tell you, if we back up a moment, my first career and my what I thought was the love of my life was in nonprofit fundraising.
Yeah.
So was very familiar with that process. When I went out into solo real estate entrepreneurship, I knew I wanted to keep that. So I kept calling the investors I knew, kept that scorecard. I think my number was 3 a day for 3 days a week. So very minimal investor contact, but I wanted to keep it up. And over time, I realized as I was on my own, growing a small portfolio, working with limited investors, I
Right.
realized this is just, I'm not producing these results. I'm not seeing it come about. And yet, it's what I want to be doing. I want to be
Yeah.
pushing in this direction. But as an entrepreneur, had to make ends meet, had to make business connections, had to grow. We had basically 2 small companies that were growing, but like the hours in the day were never enough, and I was not moving in the direction I wanted. I was moving, but
Right.
in all directions at once. And so I realized Y Street Capital, a firm I knew, I referred investors to, had this great relationship. I said, I could probably simplify and do so much more by just moving into some relationship with them. And so started like basically as an intern almost,
Right.
just with the investors I had, placing them, listening to their daily calls, being in touch, and realized this could be the pathway that would allow me to make dramatic progress and reduce some of the things that I'm not going to ever be best in the world at. I just don't stand a chance at being the best owner of a general contracting company. Or, I think at that point we were still self-managing certain multifamily assets we'd done value add to. I'm like, I'm never going to be the best property manager. Why am I doing all this? So simplified. And I think all of the coaches I had, my real estate mentors, the people I knew, would all look back at that and go, yep, that was probably a good move for that guy, because it was
Right.
with their guidance that I was seeing some of the issues that I was otherwise blind to. I was excited about entrepreneurship, but I was also going to be very stuck if I didn't change something.
So, in your transition to Y Street, what were some things that you knew like, hey, I can do this really well, but maybe you held back a few things, and
Yeah.
you're like, when the time comes, I'll be able to shine through.
So true. So I talked about the 3 investors per day when I was on my own. So I bumped that number up a lot. So the metrics I knew, now that I have a bit more focus, I can expand that metric. But I like you said, I left some things off the table, some skills I had from my entrepreneurial background that I was not applying. Over time, I realized some of my leadership experience, my management chops would apply really well to some of what we do at Y Street. And so at one point, it took me, let me call it 4 or 5 months, I raised my hand and said, I think I could make a difference in this specific area of business. And they said, oh, yeah, sure. Worst thing is we fire you from this job and let you keep your other job. And so I stepped in, and I've been a long time huge fan of EOS. And so we were already running EOS, but I had also run EOS at my old business, and I had learned EOS at a prior opportunity that I had scoped out and said, I think I can do this at a higher level with a bit more specificity than what we're doing. And
Right.
that paved its way to months later stepping into the integrator role for Y Street Capital, which is where I got my managing director title. But I held all that in for months on end going, no, I'll just stay in my lane, stay in my lane. And that was not beneficial to the company or to me.
Sure. Yeah. And so when you were able to, show your cards, essentially, you're able to go, hey, what sort of challenges did you
had to have to overcome, or what sort of things were just light bulbs for you? Like what was different once you stepped into what you're really good at?
Yeah. I obviously became more engaged, and the trust within the company grew. One benefit
Mm,
of Y Street is we have an extremely strong culture, and the culture got stronger because I was now playing full out as well. I was
sure.
not just in my division, in my lane, watching other things happen, but I was playing full out as well. And I think people recognize when other people are doing that. The
Right.
kinship is there. It's like in the gym. You go, hey, that guy's also trying really hard, and I love it. Like that's a
Exactly.
universal language, and that universal language started to be spoken at an even more rapid pace, and we felt the benefit as a business.
Mm,
I The major lesson for me was realizing that a skill set is a skill set, and you want to have, EOS calls it the get it, want it capacity to do it, and the right people, right seats.
mhm.
But you want everyone to be working towards their favorite skill set, the things that they are designed, the things that they are brought to this experience to do, like their
Right.
life purpose in a way.
Mhm.
And I had to figure that out the slow way in Y Street. But if someone is not afraid of who they are, they get the chance to do that. I
Mhm.
I could tell you stories like the things that had made me realize about our company and the way that we work became such a blessing to me. Like I realized I understand business so much better from having played full out than I would otherwise. It
Sure.
like these things, you're in the space, you're naturally going to learn more than if you're just an observer off in the distance.
Yep. So what was one thing when you got off the bench, and you're bringing EOS to the table, you're doing, getting things done, like what were some of those, like, ooh, these are some tiny tweaks.
One of the fast ones was taking what's called in EOS an accountability chart. So the fancy term for an organizational chart.
Yeah.
We took that and we started really cracking the whip around it. We started saying, no, no, you're out of your lane. Get
Mm,
back in your lane. Go do what you're best at. And either we have to resource this vital function that's not resourced appropriately, or we have to find another solution. We have to hire. We have to, what do you call that? You have to promote. You have to do something
sure.
different than
Right.
what you're doing. And that was a big shift because we had it, but nobody referred to it. I'm sure someone vaguely knew where it was stored in our files, but to actually bring it up almost on a daily basis and go, what does the accountability chart say about that? And wait for the answer. A classic sales technique. You ask the question, you don't give it away. You sit there until they're willing to make the decision themselves or to voice what they're thinking. And that big change came really quickly when we started saying these are the lanes, these are the structures of the company, and we don't deviate from these structures. That made a big difference. One other short one was moving things all the way to completion. We had a tendency to say, all right, meeting, that's good enough. One person goes and finishes that. And 2 weeks later, you go, oh, now it's finally done. But moving things, like sometimes it meant everyone sits there and watches the last person type in the last numbers and send it
Right.
so that we were not lagging or missing deadlines that are unnecessary because we got 80% of the way there in the meeting, or we got 95% of the way there in the meeting. Might as well take it all the way.
Did you have to add any new categories or any new, numbers that you weren't really tracking? Like I've often found,
No.
like, investor testimonials,
Oh,
are
yeah.
just something that's like, it's not on the radar. You guys realize, like, oh, hey, these are actually really good metrics that we really weren't tracking before, but it'll make a big difference in the long run.
So I know the most about our sales division because
Mhm.
that's my whole life experience.
Right.
In the US, you got sales, you got operations, and you got finance. And so I can tell you the most about the sales because I know it by heart. But our sales department was not tracking for outbound phone calls made the number of pickups. We were tracking total phone calls. We were tracking
Okay.
leads generated and then closes. So like the pipeline was there,
Yeah, pretty
but
good.
we have an incredibly strong volume of call pickups, which taught us that, yes, okay, so you can kind of insinuate that when you go outbound phone call to lead generated. But if wow, these are the amount of people who are willing to take a phone call from us. And
Hmm.
and so these are the amount of people that you can communicate with.
Right.
What that told us. So like we had no idea that that was such a strong number for us. And we discovered it by accident and went, wait a second, like our pickup phone call volume is much higher than email, much higher than any other channel we have. It's producing a ton of work. We should simply do more of that.
Yes.
And this is like a discovery that was made over weeks. And I will admit, it took some poking and prodding to get everyone to believe it. But once it was believed, we went, well, we're not going to spend any more money in these other things. Like we should just do this.
Right.
Exactly. Simplify. Just this one thing will work if we just do it. So that was a big discovery and like such an easy one. If you're calling and they don't pick up, you don't write a 1. If they do, you write a 1.
What you just pointed out was, wow, our investors like want to hear from us. And that shows a high level of trust. It shows a high level of, if they're calling, there's something that's important, and I want to be available for, and it takes initiative for the IR team to be able to make those phone calls and just go, I'm just gonna check in and see how their ski trip went.
Totally.
You know, and like they answer the phone and maybe they're thinking like, is something wrong with our deal? And yet it's like, hey, I saw on LinkedIn that, you went on your ski trip, man, I'd love to hear about it. And like you're saying, just let them talk. Like it's a real like activity that makes such a huge difference. Whether it's something newsworthy that you really want to share, you want to say, hey, there's something coming down the pike. There's something that I want you to know about. There's some event we're doing. There's a webinar that we're really putting our energy into, and something that I really want to make sure you can be a part of. And then also it's just sometimes it's just like, hey, it's a quarterly check-in and I want to see how your family's doing. Everything, all of that makes such a big difference. And if you don't notice, like, wow, when we call people answer, like you'd miss out so much.
In my early years of fundraising training in past lives, a statement was made that I've never forgotten by Advancement Resources, which said, people will tell you anything if you listen long enough to let them say it. So I don't even have to ask sometimes. And the person will go, and here's my personal financial statement. Here's my net worth. Here's the cash flow I'm looking for. Here's all the things, my ideal investments for the next 5 or 10 or 50 years. And I go, oh, well, thank you. Like taking notes, like, thank you so much. Great to know. We can help you better. People will tell you anything if you listen long enough to let them say it. And so you call and you ask one question and see what happens. And we found out we're consuming a ton of valuable investor information by calling. We just need to call more.
Exactly. As you guys are looking at, okay, these are the right metrics that we want to track. And maybe, there's something new that we need to add to the scorecard. What's like a resource or a book that has really helped you guys go, this is how we can be able to scale. This is how we can be able to go further, farther. Has there been like a recent book that's helped you with your mindset?
Good question. You asked tool or resource, and I thought first of a software program that I'll share. In terms of books, my classic, the absolute favorite to me is sitting right out of reach there. It is How to Master the Art of Selling by Tom Hopkins, 1980s classic, and so simple. Yes, some of it you could argue has a little of decay to it, like handing out business cards everywhere you go. People don't really do that anymore. However, being ready for anything like that is a lesson. Like always always with your business cards, always looking presentable. So even if you go to the airport at 5 o'clock in the morning, not dressing like you're going back to bed on the plane, but that you might meet someone in the airport at 5 a.m. that's meaningful to you. Now you're prepared and you don't look like you're not the respectable professional that you are. Right. Little lessons like that all over that book. There's never a subject in sales that I have not remembered. Oh, that was in Tom's book too. It's a huge book. So the other tool that in terms of adding some value here, clay.com, game changer in terms of being able to go to market with a bigger list to call or to reach out to than what you had. Its AI implementations are amazing. Its pricing is fantastic. And most people start up a business, and I know this story. You start up a business and you go, I don't have a lot of leads to talk to. You need a go-to-market tool, and Clay.com is my favorite. And I am head over heels over it. I love it. So there's a little, hopefully the sales and marketing professionals are looking that up, because that's a wild one.
That's awesome. You mentioned something before we hit record on 10X is easier than 2X. What have been, I mean, you're still cracking it. You're still, digging into it. Like, what are some things you're discovering?
I am now making the decision, which is a company decision, so don't get me wrong, but in my own sales work, I've decided it is best for us to restructure so that I only work with our ultra high net worth clients, with the people who love us the most, who want to work very closely, but they also want exclusivity. They want first looks. They want certain terms. They want custom deals. And that was a hard decision to make, because it also means I'm not going to talk to, and don't get me wrong, I will talk to anyone happily, but I'm not going to focus my attention on our existing list of, I think we have give or take 700 active investors, of which about 350 have invested, rough numbers.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to call them on a certain schedule. I'm going to focus my attention only at the people who want these custom deals. Takes more work. We have to understand them better in order to work with them. And yet that's a 10X leap for me. But I'm early on this leap. So, if you find me out panhandling, you'll know how it went. but it is a confident leap that I know is right for me, and I know it's right for our company. So that book has been a great kick in the pants to say, I know I can do it. Now it just takes a decision. Every day you have to decide.
You got to decide. And I mean, that in that specific instance, you're putting your blinders on.
Yep.
You're saying, I'm only working with this clientele. And in that case, it's like, all right, I have to rethink, what we're doing, how we're communicating, how we're following up, how we're, spending time that will yield a greater return. Honestly, is what it boils down to. What are some of those things for ultra high net worth and family offices that you got to tweak a little bit? You got to do things a little differently.
I think I approach my social media with a comfortable blend of casual, professional, and informative. And I realize I have to take the informative a lot more seriously. One of our core values is being educational. It's actually one of our three uniques. Our core marketing piece is being educational.
Yeah.
But I realize I have to do that a lot more consistently. And I can't just lean on other people to do it. And I can't make lighthearted jokes about how it's educational, but I actually have to convey some of the things we're seeing in the market, some of the things we're moving forward. And that's great. I am happy to level up like that. But I realize it's a constant transformation, constant chrysalis and you butterfly again and again and again. And I realize I have to do more of this now.
Right.
And everything has to level up. And that's the point of 10X is using 2X. Everything levels up and you're suddenly in a different atmosphere.
Right. So what are some, things in the market that you guys are excited about, some things you're hesitant about, some things that you're maybe wanting to bring and you're like, oh, maybe we shouldn't, what are the things that, as you guys are looking at, your educational, maybe it's your webinars, maybe it's, some documents that reports that you want to give. What are you looking for?
We want to do more consistent rhythm with everything we're doing. Our daily podcast is a pretty consistent rhythm, but we don't also talk about our evergreen funds on a consistent basis. Like the last webinar we did for our self-storage fund was 18 months ago. Like we should definitely issue something that is more regular than that to talk about an evergreen fund, an always open opportunity for investors. We should talk about it more often and update the webinar with, okay, it's got 3 assets, it's got this amount of construction, it's got this current net asset value in it. We should talk about that. In terms of market dynamics, I think we're concerned. Oh, the primary market's totally oversupplied. Daniel DiMartino Booth has been talking about housing in the U.S. is approaching oversupply at a faster rate than the National Association of Realtors or the National Association of Home Builders is talking about.
Right.
Her view, which I share, is those entities are biased towards reporting whatever benefits them. This amount of homes needed in the United States, this amount of homes needed to be sold in the United States. And she says we could move much faster towards oversupply than we are aware of if a few things happen dynamically. And we see that specifically in the primary markets. So we're excited about secondary and tertiary, kind of not the top 30 markets in the US and anything above, let's call it 100,000 people, like opportunity, but not when it's 3 million, not when it's 10 million people in that market. We're watching a fair amount what the dynamics are with multifamily and self-storage, which are our two main asset classes. We know there's opportunity to build in those secondary markets. We're really excited about industrial outdoor storage, which is another asset class within self-storage that we're experienced in and we really like and we have in-house operation for. But even that, you don't just want to assume that industrial growth will move in the same vector that it has in a city. Industrial outdoor storage is flexible, but you want to know that you've got real demand in every market you move towards. So really excited about that. And we see a lot of opportunity and some really high quality yield that is often not possible with other land plays or other building products, for example. Yes, this is a fascinating time to push real estate and to work on real estate. And by push, I mean, not just sitting around waiting for dynamics to change, but to really move your organization forward. We're learning a lot more by being in the market than by saying, see you in 2026.
Exactly. Yeah. Are there any specific metros that are in your top 3 or 5, and maybe what are those sources that you're, looking through or conversations you're having or something like that?
Sure. Again, this is not my area of expertise, but I do know that we find a lot of opportunity in annexing land into cities that are already growing. So any city that's got proof of growth that's also not at the peak of its proof of growth, that's a really good opportunity. The challenge then becomes the home builders and by extension, the other construction firms are a little less quick to absorb. The people who want to build out triple net retail, who want to go vertical with shopping malls or strip centers or whatever, are a little less prone to buying at this stage in the cycle. So we can annex land, but can we really find the end buyer? That's what that's a bit of the nervousness. So we're excited about Colorado Springs. We're excited about Spokane Valley. There are pockets in some other secondary markets that we feel are good, but that now you're deep in the data. You have to pull out demand drivers and the supply constraints and those things. And so it's, they say real estate is hyperlocal. This is the time where it is truly proven to be hyperlocal. Houston, Texas, most people would say, okay, that's probably a pretty dense market. Not a lot of opportunity depending on your asset class. We build self-storage. We looked into a specific submarket in Houston and said, hey, look, there might be a little hole here to fill in with some self-storage. Hole in the Swiss cheese is what our senior partner, Victor Minaj, calls it. So might be a hole to fill in. We noticed there is self-storage in that area, but it has at total 30% climate controlled in that area. This is Houston. Houston is humid. It's so hot.
Thick.
You need climate control if you're going to store anything of quality in that self-storage. So we bought a parcel of land, 6 acres, give or take, and said, we're going to put self-storage there and we're going to make it, I think the number is 87% climate controlled. Total opportunity. When we started running the market studies, when we started realizing what we might have identified, the market studies came back going oh yeah, game on. The climate controlled self-storage is 100% occupied within a 5 square mile radius, any direction. Radius, any direction.
Yeah.
That's a complete opportunity in this market. So we said, let's do it. The little lesson we had to learn here was that one of the weaknesses in our company became clear that as we were preparing to take our investors into that deal, we realized our marketing and sales function needs to improve on this specific opportunity in this specific time in the market.
Right.
The reason is because we had an opportunity to build it. We were presented with capital, deal arrangements, and we said, let's do it. And this ended up being the most complicated deal structure that we possibly have ever done.
Oh, man.
All is well. This deal is happening and we are excited about it, but $1,000 an hour for a lawyer to go and write a 30-page PowerPoint about how we were going to navigate this specific arrangement. All the elements of what was required to accomplish this, very dense, very thorough. And even now, I still look back at that PowerPoint and go, wow, this was a journey. So we leveled up in doing so, but we also realized we probably will not ever want to go back down in our sophistication to have to do this in order to get this deal done. So great lessons learned, and holy cow, I don't ever want to read a PowerPoint like that in my life.
You're like, I don't want to repeat this lesson. I don't want to go around the mountain again, you know?
Yep.
So like, I mean, maybe it's specific to this example or something else, but like what sort of like framework or, you know, what was the thing that was like, man, could have done this differently if I had this?
The answer there is a more robust front of funnel marketing operation.
Okay.
If we had more awareness of exactly what we were pursuing, the exact strategy, we would have had an easier product market fit at a more simplistic level. We had sufficient product market fit and sufficient marketing, but that's where the complexity appeared, was because it was unique to this issue, to this opportunity, that we had to put these two things together instead of having, you know, like open options across all the vectors of an investment and an opportunity.
Right.
Instead, we had to hit two needles together. So hitting two needles together became very complicated, rather than just saying like, oh, we'll take door number 6 on our option of 10 doors to walk through to complete this deal.
Investors are always asking, you know, multiple questions. They're asking like, who's the operator and why should I trust them? You know, they're asking the levels of like, do I understand the asset class that they're going in? Do I want exposure into that asset class? Do I even want exposure into that market? Do I understand that market? And there's so many different angles. And, you know, by having more transparency, by having, as you're saying, your core value of being educational makes such a difference to be able to say, hey, this is where our expertise lies. And as you were saying earlier, Robby was like, this is where it stops. This is where we bring in partners. And this is why, you know, this is a good fit for someone who's looking for this, you know, kind of context. What else, you know, do you notice in your conversations with investors?
People are getting clearer in this cycle in the market about their investment criteria. They're hearing about more opportunities. They're hearing about the concerns that during good times no one cares about, and no one is interested in hearing about the downside of every single opportunity under the sun. And yet this is where people get smart, and sometimes that's through pain, and sometimes that's through some savvy, right? Looking around and realizing I have to be very cautious about what I do with my capital. So I'm watching investors level up. Even actually, this is fun. Last night, talked with an investor on our Carmen Line opportunity, which is 1,783 acres being annexed into, it's actually succeeded in being annexed into Colorado Springs. Awesome. So new piece of Colorado Springs growing. And this investor said, hey, look, since we talked 3 weeks ago, I have changed my view about what the next steps on this asset should be. And I've changed it pretty dramatically, given the market context, given what he's hearing and seeing. And I went, that's good. Like, that means not a lazy investor, just you know, kind of in the easy chair, but someone who's doing critical thinking, which to me, it's like, what a better way to live. If you're going to be thinking, you might as well improve the thinking as long as you're doing it.
There's just so many more options. There's so many more sources, you know, to be able to consider. The savvy investors, they're doing the research, and like they should. You could have all the data, you could have all the right markers for the investor, knowing the asset class, knowing the metro that it's in. And yet, if your core values are off, who cares? Who cares? You're not aligned.
Yep. And deals often don't break down. It's the partners that do. It's the partnerships. It's the people involved. Those are the things that break. Often, it's not like every property gets hit with a meteor that gets foreclosed on. They get foreclosed on because someone was inexperienced, someone was lazy, someone was too casual, someone was off task. And that's how the issue was created. Not because all the bricks fell off of the brick house and now you can't buy it anymore. It's something else.
Right. And that's kind of full circle back to the getting things done and EOS that we kind of started with.
Yep.
Robby, this has been so good, so rich. Check him out on LinkedIn. What's another good way to kind of reach out and get to know you, Robby?
For your friends, people can call me at my cell number, which is 480-387-7879. Happy to hear from the people who are interested in simplifying their business or scaling up to the next level. It is a team sport, this whole life we live in. So always happy to make a new friend, figure out where I can help.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Robby. Appreciate you being on, man.
Absolutely.
When you stop trying to do everything and start focusing on what you do best, you don't just work more efficiently. You create exponential, better results for you and everyone around you. The point isn't having perfect systems from day one. Just measure what matters and constantly refine your approach. Again, if you want to connect with him, check him out on LinkedIn. He gave out his number. He's always happy to help. So let me know what little nugget you took and what are you putting into practice. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep it simple, Saints.